On the morning of December 7th, 1941, while every other American battleship sat paralyzed under Japanese bombs and torpedoes, USS Nevada did the unthinkable. She got underway. Crewed by teenagers and led by junior officers after her captain was caught ashore, the 27-year-old battleship steamed through a harbor of burning oil and sinking ships, her torn flag still flying, becoming the only bright spot in America's darkest morning. What followed was an act of defiance so dramatic that it electrified witnesses across Pearl Harbor and made Nevada a target for every Japanese plane in the sky. This is the story of a ship too stubborn to sink, from the band that finished the national anthem under machine gun fire to the chief boatswain who swam after his own departing ship, from surviving Pearl Harbor to bombarding Normandy, and ultimately enduring 2 atomic blasts before the Navy could finally put her under. USS Nevada was revolutionary. Commissioned on March 11, 1916, at a cost of $5.9 million, she introduced 4 innovations that would define every subsequent American battleship: the all-or-nothing armor scheme, triple-gun turrets, oil-fired propulsion, and geared turbines. Her 13.5-inch belt armor protected only vital areas, magazines, machinery, command spaces, while leaving other sections essentially unprotected. The reasoning was brutally practical. At long range, medium armor would be penetrated anyway, so why waste weight on it? At 583 feet long with a displacement of 27,500 tons, Nevada carried 10 14-inch 45 caliber guns in a configuration of 2 triple and 2 twin turrets, the first triple turrets ever mounted on an American battleship. Her oil-fired boilers gave her an 8,000-mile cruising range, critical for Pacific operations where the distance from San Pedro to Manila stretched 6,550 nautical miles. The oil fuel reduced boiler room crew requirements by over 200 men compared to coal-fired ships. Her sister ship Oklahoma used older vertical triple expansion engines, while Nevada received experimental geared turbines. The Navy deliberately tested both systems head-to-head. At Pearl Harbor, this distinction would prove fateful. Oklahoma capsized and was lost forever, while Nevada's more modern machinery helped make her escape possible. By December 1941, Nevada was the oldest battleship at Pearl Harbor, her crew swollen to approximately 1,500 men with an average age of just 19 and a half years. She had been modernized between 1927 and 1930, receiving anti-torpedo bulges, new engines salvaged from USS North Dakota, and improved anti-aircraft armament. The ship that would soon make history had already seen 25 years of service. Nevada was moored at berth F8, the northernmost position on Battleship Row along Ford Island's southeast shore. Unlike the other battleships, paired together like Tennessee with West Virginia, Maryland with Oklahoma, Nevada floated alone. This positioning, likely routine rotation, would prove decisive. She was the only battleship that could maneuver without coordinating with an adjacent vessel. At approximately 4:00 a.m. on December 7th, Ensign Ernest Dunlap ordered boiler number 6 lit, a routine decision to switch the power load from boiler number 2, which had been running for 2 straight days. When Ensign Joseph K. Taussig Jr. relieved Dunlap at 4 a.m. for his first ever watch as officer of the deck, Nevada had 2 boilers operating, a seemingly trivial fact that would change everything. Captain Francis W. Scanland was ashore with his wife in Honolulu. The executive officer was also absent. Command fell to Lieutenant Commander Francis J. Thomas, the assistant damage control officer who was deep in the ship's bowels at his damage control station. On deck, 21-year-old Ensign Taussig worried about the proper flag size for morning colors. At 7:56 a.m., Nevada's 23-man band formed up on the fantail in splendid dress whites. The Marine Color Guard prepared to raise the flag. Bandleader Odin McMillan raised his baton at exactly 8 a.m. At that precise moment, Japanese planes appeared over Pearl Harbor. The first torpedo bomber swept low over Nevada's stern just as the band struck the opening notes of the Star-Spangled Banner. The Japanese rear gunner opened fire, his machine gun rounds ripping through the American flag as it slid up the pole. By some miracle, the bullets missed all 25 to 30 men standing at attention on the fantail. The bandsmen paused during the strafing, then started again in unison, as if they had practiced it that way, one witness recalled. A second torpedo bomber passed overhead without firing. The band played on. Not until the final note faded did they break for cover. It had never occurred to bandleader Macmillan that once he started playing the Star-Spangled Banner, he could possibly stop, he later explained. Historian Walter Lord noted that the bandsmen calmly put their instruments away before reporting to their battle stations, except one man who took along his cornet and excitedly threw it into a shell hoist along with some shells for the anti-aircraft guns above. Ensign Tausig reacted instantly. He grabbed the bugler's instrument and threw it overboard, then shouted over the ship's PA system, "All hands to general quarters, this is no drill." Within moments, machine guns opened fire on incoming torpedo planes. At approximately 8:02 a.m., a .50 caliber machine gun crew destroyed a torpedo plane about 100 yards off Nevada's port quarter before it could drop its weapon. At approximately 8:05 a.m., a Type 91 aerial torpedo slammed into Nevada's port bow at frame 41 between turrets 1 and 2, approximately 14 feet above the keel. The explosion tore a hole roughly 45 feet long by 30 feet high, the size of a house, witnesses said. Seaman Charles Say, 18 years old, felt a violent lurching upwards of our ship with vibrant shuddering before slamming back on the water. The ship immediately developed a 4 to 5 degree list to port. Deep below decks, Lieutenant Commander Thomas ordered counterflooding to correct the list while dispatching firefighting teams throughout the ship. The Kate bomber that delivered the torpedo was shot down immediately by Nevada's gunners. A second torpedo missed, slamming harmlessly into the muddy bank. Then at 8:09 a.m. came the moment that seared itself into every survivor's memory. USS Arizona's forward magazines detonated. A column of blast furnace red heat shot several hundred feet into the air. The shockwave reached Nevada's open decks. Men on topside felt the searing heat. Gunner Cary Garnett and dozens of others were blown off Nevada's decks into the water. An acrid black smoke began spiraling upward that would burn all day. Arizona was moored just 75 feet ahead of Nevada. Lieutenant Lawrence Ruff, Nevada's communications officer, watched from the hospital ship Solace across the harbor. Seeing the Arizona totally destroyed came as a terrible shock. He could not help but speculate about the fate of many of his Naval Academy classmates and friends aboard her. Of Arizona's crew of 1,512 men, 1,177 died in that single explosion. What happened next was unprecedented. Harbor authorities issued an order for battleships to get underway. Nevada was the only major warship able to respond. Getting a 27,500-ton battleship underway normally required 2 full hours, multiple tugboats, a civilian harbor pilot, navigator, and captain. Nevada would do it in 45 minutes with none of these. The credit belongs to several men acting independently. Chief Quartermaster Robert Sedbury, on his own initiative, ordered the engine room to prepare for getting underway before any officers even reached the bridge. Warrant Machinist Donald K. Ross rushed to the forward dynamo room to ensure electrical power, critical for the anti-aircraft guns and fire control systems. Lieutenant Ruff commandeered a launch from Solace and crossed the smoke-filled harbor under strafing fire to reach Nevada. Finding Thomas at the damage control station, the two officers divided responsibilities. Thomas would command from below decks, Ruff would manage topside operations and navigation. Chief Boatswain Edwin Joseph Hill, a 47-year-old veteran with 30 years of naval service, led his line-handling detail to the quay under heavy fire. When sailors on the dock took cover from strafing, Hill jumped from the ship, swam to the pier, and single-handedly cast off the mooring lines. Then he dove back into the oil-slicked water and swam after the departing battleship as it backed away, climbing back aboard to continue fighting. At 8:40 a.m., USS Nevada officially got underway. Warrant Machinist Donald K. Ross faced a simple choice: abandon his post or keep the ship powered. He chose to stay. The forward dynamo room was the electrical heart of Nevada. When smoke, escaping steam, and temperatures exceeding 140 degrees overwhelmed the compartment, Ross ordered his men to evacuate. Then he remained alone, servicing the dynamo himself. He was blinded by the smoke. He lost consciousness. Crewmates found him and revived him. He went back. Ross proceeded to secure the forward dynamo, then moved to the aft dynamo room where conditions were equally hellish. He collapsed again from exhaustion. He regained consciousness. He returned to his station and remained there until ordered to abandon it. His actions kept Nevada under power throughout the attack, enabling continuous anti-aircraft fire and ultimately preventing the ship from sinking in the channel. Ross wasn't even supposed to be aboard that morning. His girlfriend Helen had planned a surprise birthday picnic. His 31st birthday was December 8th. But the night before, he'd insisted on returning to the ship. He just had a feeling that he should be with the ship. After the attack, despite impaired eyesight, Ross refused hospitalization and helped with rescue efforts. His vision took 3 weeks to return. On April 18, 1942, Admiral Chester Nimitz presented him the Medal of Honor, the first awarded in World War II. Years later, Ross deflected praise with characteristic humility. "I don't know what all this fuss is about. I'm just a poor Navy man who has always tried to do his duty. I love this country like I love my own family. God bless America." Nevada backed clear of her berth, turned, and began steaming down the main channel toward the Navy Yard. The sight electrified witnesses across Pearl Harbor. By now, Pearl Harbor was a hell pit of smoke. Gray, brown, white, lemon yellow, black, and again black. Acrid, foul, mushrooming billows erupting skyward. Out of this pall came a sight so incredible that its viewers could not have been more dumbfounded had it been the legendary Flying Dutchman, Nevada, heading into the channel, a hole the size of a house in her bow, her torn flag rippling defiance. Baker Emil Johnson aboard the Minesweeper Tern saw Nevada emerge through the smoke and thought, "Well, there's one that's going to get away." Smaller tugboats and ferries blew their horns beneath the din of battle to speed the Nevada on its way. The passage was nightmarish. Nevada steamed past the blazing Arizona. Lieutenant Commander Thomas later said they passed so close, "I felt I could have lit a cigarette from the blazing wreck." The heat from Arizona's fires forced some men to turn their backs and hug shells with their bodies to keep them from exploding. 3 Arizona survivors swimming in the oily water were pulled aboard and immediately joined a gun crew. Nevada passed the capsized Oklahoma, where 429 men were trapped inside the overturned hull. Several of Oklahoma's crew standing on her exposed hull stood up and cheered. Chief Sedbury performed real twisting and turning at the helm, navigating around a harbor dredge while under continuous attack. Lieutenant Ruff fed Thomas positions and recommended courses. Ruff's legs would be black and blue for days afterward from being knocked about by the explosions. Circling 10,000 feet above in his command aircraft, Japanese strike leader Commander Mitsuo Fuchida spotted Nevada moving and immediately understood the stakes. "Ah, good. Now just sink that ship right there." If Nevada sank in the narrow channel, the entire Pacific Fleet would be bottled up for months, perhaps a year. Fuchida directed every available aircraft toward the moving battleship. Every Japanese plane now converged on Nevada. The second wave had arrived, approximately 78 Aichi-D-3A Valdive bombers. Nevada was soon wreathed in smoke from her own guns, from numerous bomb hits, and from fires that raged out of control on her forward decks. Sometimes she disappeared entirely when near misses threw huge columns of water into the air. Watching from his phone call with General Martin, Admiral Patrick Bellinger broke off mid-sentence. "Just a minute. I think there is going to be a hell of an explosion here." Between 1010 dock and the floating dredge turbine, Nevada was hit by at least 6 bombs, possibly as many as 10. 2 bombs struck the forecastle deck. Another penetrated through the wardroom before exploding. A bomb forward of the Port AA director punched through the navigation bridge, signal bridge, and into casemate 6, starting fires that swept through the captain's quarters and chart house. 1 bomb exploded in the ship's stack, sending heat and acrid smoke throughout the ventilation system. At his battle station in the Mark 19 Fire Control Director, 21-year-old Ensign Tausig was directing anti-aircraft fire when a .50 caliber bullet nearly severed his left leg. There was no pain, and because I was clutching the sides of the hatch as the director slewed around, I did not fall down. My left foot was grotesquely under my left armpit, but in the detachment of shock, I was not aware that this was particularly bad. Boatswain's mate Alan Owens, standing beside him, said the exact same thing Tausig was thinking. That's a hell of a place for a foot to be. Despite the catastrophic wound, Tausig refused to leave his station. He continued directing battery fire while lying on his back, bombs and torpedoes exploding all around and blood running down the starboard side. His crew finally lowered him by stretcher when fire blocked normal descent routes. Even then, Tausig kept fighting. "Isn't this a hell of a thing? the man in charge lying flat on his back while everyone else is doing something. His leg was amputated. He returned to duty 3 days later. He spent 52 months in hospitals, earned a law degree, and retired as a captain at age 34, the youngest in the Navy at the time. Years later, he tried to find the taxi driver who had taken him to the hospital to apologize for the blood. At approximately 9:10 a.m., they reluctantly decided to nose Nevada into the mud off Hospital Point. Chief Boatswain Edwin Hill rushed forward to drop the anchor. While on the forecastle, 3 Japanese bombs landed near the bow. All trace of Hill vanished in the explosion. His body was found later with bullet wounds. Whether from strafing before or after the bomb blast will never be known. 46 other crewmen died with him. Hill was 47 years old, with 30 years of naval service. Surviving crewmen, 18 and 19-year-olds, credited him with saving their lives by ordering them behind gun turrets for protection during the attack. Edwin Joseph Hill received the Medal of Honor posthumously. The destroyer escort USS Hill was later named in his honor. Ruff signaled a sailor on the fantail with a waved hat to drop the stern anchor. Nevada's engines backed full. The bow ground into the mud at Hospital Point, her momentum carrying the ship into a sugarcane field on an even keel. The tug Hoga, which had followed Nevada down the channel, moved alongside to assist with firefighting. Captain Francis W. Scanlon finally reached Nevada at approximately 9:15 a.m., having made his way from Honolulu through the chaos. He found his ship beached, burning with over 50 dead and more than 100 wounded. The agony wasn't over. Just after Nevada grounded, a bomb struck the destroyer Shaw in Dry Dock 2. The impact detonated Shaw's forward magazines in a massive fireball, demolishing the front half of the ship. Flaming debris rained down on Nevada from half a mile away. Strong tide and winds swung Nevada's stern around, partially blocking the channel. At 10:45 a.m., tugs pushed the battleship's stern until her bow slid free, then backed her across the channel to Waipio Point, where she grounded stern first on a coral shelf. By Monday night, December 8th, Nevada's weight had pulled her stern off the shelf. She settled to the harbor floor in shallow water. The final toll: 60 killed, 109 wounded. 2 more men would die during salvage operations on February 7, 1942, from hydrogen sulfide gas. Nevada's crew earned 2 of the 15 Medals of Honor and 15 of the 51 Navy Crosses awarded at Pearl Harbor, possibly the highest for any ship in a single action. Transfer orders for Captain Scanlon arrived on December 8th. Like the Olympic contestant who overslept and missed his race, Scanlon perhaps never forgave himself for his missed moment in history. He earned a Navy Cross at Midway commanding USS Astoria, but his son later recalled that his father never discussed Pearl Harbor with him. The Navy was determined to salvage Nevada. Over 400 dives totaling more than 1,500 hours went into the effort. On February 12, 1942, Nevada was refloated. She entered dry dock 6 days later. On April 22, 1942, Nevada steamed under her own power to Puget Sound Navy Yard, Bremerton, Washington, for a $23 million modernization that transformed her appearance. The overhaul replaced her distinctive lattice masts with a superstructure resembling the modern South Dakota-class battleships. Her old 5-inch guns gave way to 16 new 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns in twin mounts, plus 32 Bofors 40mm and 40 Oerlikon 20mm anti-aircraft guns. Modern radar and fire control computers completed the transformation. By October 1942, Nevada returned to the fleet, and she had unfinished business. In May 1943, she provided fire support for the capture of Attu in the Aleutians, firing nearly 250 rounds of 14-inch shells. After convoy escort duty in the Atlantic, she sailed for England in April 1944, her destination, Normandy. On June 6, 1944, USS Nevada was positioned 4 nautical miles offshore of Utah Beach as flagship for Rear Admiral Morton Deo's bombardment force. She would become the first ship to fire on D-Day. Nevada's 14-inch guns opened up at dawn, their 1,500-pound shells pulverizing German fortifications. Over the course of the invasion, she fired 337 rounds of 14-inch shells and nearly 2,700 rounds of 5-inch ammunition. Her targets included gun emplacements, troop concentrations, and the massive concrete seawall that German engineers believed impregnable. One of her most dramatic achievements came when she destroyed a formation of 90 German tanks counterattacking the American beachhead. Her 14-inch shells, guided by Spitfire pilots serving as spotters, pulverized the armor formations at ranges up to 15 miles inland. At Cherbourg on June 25th, the Germans fired back with 11.2-inch shore batteries. Nevada was straddled 32 times by enemy shells but escaped damage. USS Texas took a hit to her superstructure. Nevada fired 1,216 main battery rounds and 3,531 5-inch shells at the German-held port. Nevada was the only battleship present at both Pearl Harbor and Normandy. In August 1944, Nevada joined the invasion of southern France for Operation Dragoon. Her most memorable engagement was the artillery duel with Big Willie, a heavily fortified German position at Toulon featuring 4 340mm guns salvaged from the French battleship Provence, embedded in rocky terrain with a range of nearly 19 nautical miles. On August 23rd, Nevada led a bombardment force that struck the most damaging blow to the fortress during a 6.5-hour battle, firing 354 salvos. Toulon fell 2 days later. After returning to New York for gun refit, during which Turret 1 received 3 14-inch guns salvaged from USS Arizona, Nevada sailed for the Pacific. The weapons that had been in the relining process at Pearl Harbor when Arizona died would now return to fight. Nevada bombarded Iwo Jima beginning February 16, 1945, moving to within 600 yards from shore to provide maximum firepower. At Okinawa, she arrived March 24th for the final major amphibious assault of the war. On March 27th, a kamikaze crashed onto Nevada's main deck next to turret number 3, killing 11 and wounding 49. Both 14-inch guns in that turret were knocked out. Nevada remained on station until June 30th, then joined the Third Fleet within range of the Japanese home islands as the war drew to its close. Nevada earned 7 battle stars for World War II service. After brief occupation duty in Tokyo Bay, Nevada returned to Pearl Harbor. At 32 and a third years old, she was deemed too old for the post-war Navy, but the military had one more use for her. For Operation Crossroads, the first peacetime nuclear weapons tests, Nevada was selected as the central target ship. She was painted bright orange-red with white gun barrels, a flashing strobe light mounted on deck to guide bomb aiming. Instruments measured pressure, radiation, and acceleration. 4 M26 Pershing tanks were placed on deck. Test animals, goats, pigs, rats, occupied 22 target ships. On July 1, 1946, a 23-kiloton plutonium bomb airdropped from a B-29 named Dave's Dream detonated at 520 feet altitude. The bomb missed Nevada by approximately 1,500 feet. Despite the near miss, Nevada was damaged but remained afloat. 5 other ships sank. On July 25, 1946, a second 23-kiloton bomb detonated 90 feet underwater, the first underwater nuclear explosion. The blast created a column of 2 million tons of radioactive water. One observer reported the explosion lifted Nevada clear of the water on an even keel. Nevada still did not sink. She was heavily damaged and intensely radioactive. On August 29, 1946, USS Nevada was formally decommissioned. Towed to approximately 65 nautical miles southwest of Pearl Harbor, Nevada became a target for naval gunnery exercises. On July 31, 1948, USS Iowa and 3 light cruisers opened fire from 15 miles, then closed to 5 miles. Nevada absorbed the punishment. Destroyers sent in hundreds of 5-inch projectiles. When the smoke cleared, Nevada was still riding proud and defiant. It took 4.5 days of sustained bombardment. Finally, an Avenger torpedo bomber dropped a single aerial torpedo into Nevada's starboard side amidships. The old battleship slowly listed to starboard, then abruptly capsized and sank stern first. Her colors were still flying as she went down. Nevada settled in approximately 15,600 feet of water. On May 11, 2020, a joint expedition discovered her wreck lying upside down on the seafloor, the number 36 still visible on her stern, one of the Pershing tanks from the atomic tests documented in the debris field. Boatswain's mate Richard Ramsey, a Pearl Harbor survivor, later protested, They should not have sunk that ship. In my opinion, it should be tied up next to the Missouri. Today, a bronze tablet at Hospital Point on Ford Island honors the men who died aboard Nevada at Pearl Harbor. The Nevada State Museum in Carson City holds the ship's sterling silver service, created from 5,000 ounces of Nevada silver and gold from Nevada mines, along with the champagne bottle used to christen her in 1914 and the battle flag she flew through 2 atomic blasts. Donald Ross's ashes were scattered at sea over Nevada's wreck. The guided missile destroyer USS Ross carries his name. Chief Boatswain Edwin Hill is commemorated by the destroyer escort USS Hill. Charles C., the 18-year-old seaman who survived Pearl Harbor aboard Nevada, went on to serve at D-Day, making him the only known Nevada crewman present at both attacks. In 2016, at the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, he reflected on the teenage crew that had accomplished the impossible. We got hit by 8 bombs, but still got underway, the only battleship to get underway. Most of that crew was 17 to 23 years of age, but they were trained and able to carry out their duties. The Navy's official assessment called Nevada the only bright spot in an otherwise dismal and depressing morning. In truth, she was something more, proof that even in the worst moments, determination and courage can change what seems inevitable. The battleship that survived Pearl Harbor, bombarded Hitler's fortress Europe, weathered kamikazes at Okinawa, and endured 2 atomic bombs finally rests 3 miles beneath the Pacific, 65 miles from the harbor where she made history. Her colors were still flying as she went down.